In today's video, you're going to meet my grandson and you're going to get a kid's point of view on being out of school due to the lockdown and COVID. Stay tuned. Well, as I said, here's my grandson. This is my grandson, Noah. Noah, say hi to the people.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Noah is here visiting from Virginia. He came for the summer. He was here last summer also. And he belongs to my youngest son, Nathan. And his brothers are Tristan and Luke. I know you've heard me talk about Tristan because he spends the summers here also. And so anyhow, Noah is going to give his answers to, let me see, seven questions that I wrote down to ask him how he feels about being out of school and due to the lockdown and when schools closed last March and how it affected his life and things like that. We'll get his perspective. So you'll have the perspective of a 14-year-old. Noah will be 15 in February.
Yep.
Okay. All right, you ready?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Question number 1. How has being out of school affected you?
Well, it's a lot more boring, and you have to go out of your way to find things to do.
Okay. And has it affected you in other ways? Like, how about like for sports or...
A lot of sports were canceled, and a lot of sports are canceled for the upcoming school year.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't really play certain sports.
And you did wrestling last year, right?
Yes.
And football. What were you planning to do this year?
Just wrestling.
Just wrestling, okay. All right. Number 2, what do you miss most about being out of school? It can be more than one thing, but could be a lot of things.
Just the friends. There's certain friends that you have in school that aren't really that good of friends, where you hang out a lot and have sleepovers, but you're still friends with them. And you don't really see them that much when you don't have school anymore.
Yeah, I can understand that, because friends are so important to teenagers. Well, to all of us. Number 3, what difference have you noticed having to do online learning as opposed to being in the classroom?
I feel like you have more work online.
Do you?
Yes. I feel like in school they give you less work because you're like in school and stuff.
Uh-huh.
But when you're home, they feel like you have more time because you're not doing as much stuff, I guess.
So they're just kind of piling on more work?
Yes.
More homework too?
Mm-hmm. And you have meetings like on Zoom
Uh-huh.
and stuff with your teachers, and some of them are mandatory and you have to do that.
So that consumes a lot more time.
Yeah, and it's more boring.
Okay. Is it harder to learn online than it is in a classroom?
Yes, it's harder to stay focused once you're like at your house.
Yeah.
Rather than in a classroom.
Where there's more structure.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Question number 4. What have you found to do during this period of time off to have some joy and fun in your life? Since really March the schools closed and everything went into lockdown, since then, what did you find to do to at least have a little bit of fun if you can't hang with your friends and play your sports?
Well, I started to go fishing a lot
Uh-huh.
with my friends and my brothers, and I hang out a lot more with my friends, whether we go bike to my high school and just hang out there, or just hang out at somebody's house playing video games.
Well, that sounds like that would keep you busy and have a little bit of fun. What do you like about fishing? Because fishing always sounded so, like, boring to me.
I don't know. I don't really have patience normally, but for some reason when I'm fishing, I could just stay there for hours.
Wow. Do you like the solitude? It's quiet, or I guess you're supposed to be quiet when you're fishing. I don't know.
Yeah.
And are you pretty lucky catching fish?
Yeah. Most of the time.
Have you ever caught what would be considered a pretty good size one?
Yes.
Do you have a picture?
Yes.
Okay. Well, if we can find that picture, if it's on his phone, I'll insert it in this video so you can see.
I look pretty awkward holding it.
Well, that's okay. At least you caught it. Number 5. What has bothered you the most from being in lockdown and being out of school? What's bothered you the most of this whole situation? School, lockdown, everything. If you had to name like the number one thing that has bothered you the most of all this stuff.
Probably that you can't see your school friends. Because you
Okay.
don't really hang out with them in person.
Yeah. Well, and if you were older and you could drive, you could at least, but you're not old enough to drive yet.
Mm-mm.
So that makes it more difficult. Number 6, do you know if you were going back to school in the fall? Do you know that yet for Virginia and the county, the area you live? Have they said if you're going back yet?
Well, somebody told me that it's going to be learning online for the first 9 weeks, the first fourth of the school year, and then after that, I don't know. But the first 9 weeks are going to be virtual.
So they've already made that decision. Oh boy. Okay. How do you feel about that?
I don't like it. Yeah.
All right. And number 7, our last question. Do you think school should reopen for kids? And if so, why?
I think that they should, because there's some kids who rely on the school for lunch
Yes.
and eating, and they can't get that if they're not in school.
That's true. Any other reasons you can think of? I've heard some things like kids that come from, homes that there may be abuse or nobody's home. School is a safe place for them, to be, and they can't be there. Do you worry or fear that if school did reopen, do you feel like, I could get the virus or I could pass it on to somebody, or is that a concern at all for you, or do you feel like, with whatever knowledge you have, it really doesn't affect kids, or how do you feel?
I'm not really worried about it.
Okay.
I still hang out with people, and yeah.
Yeah. You still get together with your friends and
Yes.
do. Okay. All right. Well, I think that was all of our questions. I'm so glad to hear your perspective since you're in the situation. Now, when I end a video, I always leave an inside beauty tip. Now, I know you're not like into beauty, Noah. But it doesn't have to be makeup or skincare or anything like that. It's just, how about a feeling? Like a feeling that you feel in your heart. An inside feeling that you feel is important. That maybe people should think about or that matters to you. That kind of thing.
Don't care what other people think about you.
I love that. You already know that at 14? It took me to like age 60 to learn that.
Yeah.
And why doesn't it matter what other people think or say about you?
Because they can't control you or your life, and they have no say in what you do or how you act.
Absolutely. I agree with that, honey, completely. Well, Noah gave the inside beauty tip. So I'm going to do one more thing, and I'm going to ask Noah to share his favorite memory of him and I. Something, that we did or used to do or whatever. So do you have a favorite? You probably have thousands of
Yeah.
them.
One of them is when I would used to go over to your old house back in Virginia,
Uh-huh.
and I would help you put the stamps on the envelopes.
That's right. I have a medical billing company. I've had it for 30 years, so I work from my home. And, back then, before everything was electronic and everything, I had to mail out a lot of claims to insurance companies. And Noah, since he was very little, he always wanted to work, work with me. Like, do you have any work for me? So he would put the stamps, the postage on, or the return labels, or whatever. And to him, he was going to work, even though it was at my house. And he got paid well. Plus, he got cookies, milk, candy, all kind of good things. That was a good job for you.
Yeah.
One of my favorite memories of Noah and I, Noah loved chicken noodle soup, but those, what's that called? Cup of soup. Those little Lipton cup of soup. It's got the teeny tiny little noodles. That was his absolute favorite. He wanted it every time he came over. So I would always make it for him, but he doesn't like anything hot. He still doesn't like anything hot. So I'd have to put it in the refrigerator, add an ice cube. By then to me it was like ice cold. But we had to blow on it. So for every spoonful, I had to blow and blow and blow to make sure it was cold enough for him. So that was just a fun, special memory that we did very often because Noah only lived like a mile from us, so we saw them all the time. So that's it. Do you miss me?
Mm-hmm.
I miss you too, honey. But thankfully, they come down and visit. And Noah has spent last summer. Did you spend the summer before?
No, just last summer.
Okay, last summer and this summer. So we get a lot of time with him and with all of our grandchildren. Well, that's the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I really enjoyed spending time with you, and Noah, you being my special guest. I thank you for doing this because, you have to ask a kid who's in school and going through this to know what it's like. So I appreciate it very much. So until we meet again, this is the old girl signing out. See ya. Bye.
Bye.